Hello everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Drunken Gamer, where we cover some recent happenings in the video game industry and enjoy some liquor at the same time. I'd say last episode was pretty successful, got a good reception out of it from the people that watched, and I'm going to take what I learned from putting that one together and work on improving things going forward. So hopefully in the future we can have better episodes, we can get improving quality, and hopefully a larger viewer count to compensate for it. Now, last week I admit I was a bit more ranty than I should have been, and I apologize for that. The topics in particular had that kind of effect on me, so we're going to try to make things a little bit more lighthearted from here on out. We'll see how that goes. Maybe, hopefully, not so ranty. As for the liquor of choice, this week I got sitting next to me a bottle of Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. This stuff is dangerously addicting, so expect a bit more slurs from me the farther the episode we go. Cheers. Ah, ooh, that's good. Anyway, excuse me. Anyway, let's get right to this. Now, last week you'll remember that we mentioned that Vice President Joe Biden was meeting with different groups of people to get their point of view in regards to gun control, one of which being representatives from the video game industry. Well, Biden finally sent in his recommendations on gun control to Obama, and fellow gamers will be glad to know that video games are not being affected.
Yes! 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 Yes!
So, while video games aren't immediately being blamed this time, Obama's still planning on having increased research done on the link between media and violence. Which is alright. If they need more research to be done, then let them do their research. Of course, this isn't stopping other states from concocting their own ridiculous methods. Methods like Massachusetts plans to hold an event where children can turn in violent games for incentives like gift certificates and get out of homework free cards. Now, here's a drinking game for you. Whenever a group of people do something completely idiotic that's an attempt to draw attention away from an actual issue, take a shot. Cheers. Now, as I was saying, Mayor Robert Dolan of Melrose, Massachusetts is front-running this drive, saying that people can turn in all kinds of violent media, including games, movies, music, and even toys. Because everyone knows that an Adventure Time toy totally gives kids the urge to grab a medieval sword, steal the neighbor's dog, and go running to the nearest medieval times to challenge the wizard there. Also on the list of things that are completely fucking stupid is recent legislation in Missouri brought on by Republican Dianne Franklin calling for a sin tax on violent video games. Those being titles rated by the ESRB as T for teens or higher. Now, what this would basically mean is that any game with a rating of barely a T would be taxed by this silly legislation, even if they don't have strong violent content. That means relatively safe titles like Disgaea, Monster Hunter, every non-M rated fighting game ever made, and even Rock Band would be taxed by this, even though they don't have any kinds of extreme violence whatsoever. Besides the complete idiocy of the whole thing, this lady also apparently isn't aware of the fact that such a tax would straight up violate the First Amendment rights that video games were granted in 2011 by a Supreme Court ruling. Fun fact, for those of you who may have been paying attention to the past election and facepalming at every possible opportunity, one of the people that was running for Senate in Missouri was Republican Todd Akin, who drew an immense amount of fire because of his comment that the female body had ways of preventing unwanted pregnancy in the event of legitimate rape. Here's another addition to the drinking game. Whenever dumbass politicians from Missouri say or do something completely stupid, take a shot. Now, clearly, we still have a long way to go in regards to common sense being something that people actually use. But, at least America's politicians aren't alone on that front. Developer Deep Silver got a huge amount of flack after announcing their special edition package for Dead Island Riptide, which would be available in the United Kingdom and Australia. What part was so offensive about it, you may ask?
Friends in the UK and Australia are getting something absolutely bananas in their real special edition. It's called the Zombie Bait Edition, costs £100, and its centerpiece is this resin statue of a well-endowed woman's torso. Just the torso, mind you. The head, arms, and legs have been removed. It measures a foot high.
But who wouldn't want a foot-tall resin of a mangled female corpse sitting above their fireplace? It's the perfect conversation piece, right next to your souvenir shrunken head you got as a gift from a voodoo priest in South Africa, and your used guillotine that you obtained from your time travel adventures to medieval Europe. Now, all joking aside, obviously this isn't really the best idea for a collector's edition item that you could come up with, and the response from the media was obviously less than positive in regards to this statue, with people taking to Twitter with posts saying that the announcement of this item is just awful, despicable, and even Destructoid's Jim Sterling saying, even putting aside the weird message a sexualized corpse torso sends, it's just ugly. Now, you know you done fucked up when you have someone that's normally as clueless as Jim Sterling riding your rails. Holy shit. I'm actually agreeing with Jim fucking Sterling. Dear God. Everything I know is a lie. My entire world is falling apart. There's no reason for me to go on. What am I fighting for? Sorry about that. Got a bit overwhelmed there. Had to take another shot to calm my nerves. Anyway, moving on. Deep Silver later went on to publicly apologize for the statue on Twitter, though makes no mention of actually removing the item from the package. Probably because of the fact that they've already got them all made and are trying to figure out what to do with them. They could always just bank on the basement nerd necrophilia population to pour money in on it, as for many of them, it might be the closest thing to an actual female corpse that they'll ever get. And speaking of corpses, Star Wars The Old Republic. The struggling MMORPG made the switch to free-to-play not too long ago, which caused it to push back plans to include same-sex relationships, a regular option that normally exists in other BioWare games such as Mass Effect and Dragon Age. The developers are now finally at a stage where they can implement it. Unfortunately, the recent details of the inclusion have ruffled some jimmies of people on both sides of the same-sex scale. Now, obviously, no one should be surprised that religious and homophobic whack jobs are already giving EA and BioWare a rough time for even thinking about including same-sex relationships. But criticism has also been drawn from those supportive of it because of details of where exactly these relationships can take place at. Apparently, for the moment at least, even after the update it's being built as part of has been downloaded, current plans are to limit same-sex interactions to a singular planet called Mechab. While the developers have said they have plans to expand on these options in the future, people are complaining that the developers are creating a gay ghetto planet, restricting just when and where you can get your freak on with your male Wookiee life partner. Now, I'm a strong advocate of same-sex marriage. I feel that humans should have the right to marry other humans regardless of gender. EA, BioWare, serious talk here. I know you guys are trying to be cautious about implementing same-sex relationships to piss off as few people as possible. But you got to understand something about this. The people that are against same-sex relationships are going to be pissed off no matter what you try to do, because they're the kind of people that aren't afraid to force their own outdated values onto others for no reason whatsoever. This is not something you should be holding back on. If you're going to allow same-sex relationships in an MMO, you're going to need to go all the way. And that includes allowing open same-sex relationships in all corners of the Star Wars universe. And if they don't like it, well, they can always go play another game. And that's something you can drink to. Before we end this episode for the day, I want to close things off by taking a quote from a book my pops handed to me the other day called The Quotable Drunkard, a collection of various amusing anecdotes from figures in history, fiction, and nonfiction. Today, I want to read a quote that comes from Frederick the Great. Google it. Many battles have been fought and won by soldiers nourished on beer. Whatever battle you may be fighting right now, here's hoping you see within it with a good bottle of booze by your side. Well, That does it for this week's episode. Check out our Facebook page in the description below for updates. Be sure to hit the subscribe button up top so that you'll know when new episodes go live. You know you want to hit that button. Go on, do it. Also, I have plans to start the first Drunken gaming video relatively soon, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. As for what game I'll be playing, I'm going to keep that under wraps for the time being, but hopefully it'll be enjoyable nonetheless. That'll be it for this week's episode. I'll see you guys next time.